Welcome to Shooting the Shift with Marilyn and Elizabeth. These light warriors, both native New Yorkers, walk their walk, talk their talk, and keep the real in the deal. This dynamic duo joined forces to assist you through your transformational journey one step at a time, empowering you with spiritual tools you can use in your daily life. Each show begins as a conversation creating an opening for spiritual connection. There are never any scripts, and Spirit is always illuminating the way. And that's when the shift hits the fan. The magical messages of the ancestors, spirit guides, and Gaia are respected, honored, and always given sacred space to communicate. Join Marilyn and Elizabeth as they shake shift up and do what they do best, speak from their hearts.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Welcome. This is Elizabeth, Lindsay, and Miss Marilyn. How are you?
Great. It's a beautiful day today.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful month, and spring is here. It's official. In case you missed the memo. So, you know what? Today, Miss Marilyn and I are talking about something that is very dear to my heart. And we would love for you to call in. If you'd like to call in, we're very friendly, and we would welcome any insights, comments, or anything. So 202-570-7057. I'm going to say that again. 202-570-7057. And each week we try and have a topic so that we can plan ahead and have a little bit of a topic. OMTimes asks us for that, and we struggled with that for a while, but you know, this one seems right on target because we planned this about, literally about a month ago, maybe a few weeks later than that. But Marilyn, you wrote this so eloquently. I loved how you put this, so I'm just going to read this. So today we are going to discuss the power in recognizing the warrior spirit that lives in us all, how our beliefs define each storm. How do you navigate through the storms? Do you fight through the storm? Do you freeze in it? Do you run and hide? Do you deny its presence? Or do you stand in the center and recognize your power through it? How we respond to the storms that rise up to meet us matters. So we are diving into that topic today of the spiritual warrior, and what does that mean in all ways around. The only thing I would have added to that, which I loved your description so much, was, do you become a puddle in the storm? Because for me, I can be very emotional and feel like the waters are rising and I am sinking a little bit until I embrace that empowerment. So I just thought you said that so well, because I've been through many storms. I know many of us have been through many storms. Mm-hmm. The biggest storm would be the dark night of the soul for me, with my fighting for my life for 3 years. But I am a warrior at nature, and I always have been. And I did make some notes, Marilyn, because this is such a big topic, but I really want to give you a chance to say something out there in radio land before I dive into it.
Oh, it's beautiful, right? Because it's important for us to recognize that, we all have a warrior spirit. And whether we're tapped into it or not is the question as well, right? Because many of us, some of us recognize it, but some of us don't. Some of us are not even aware the power that we hold inside of each and every one of us, right, has such great power. And so I really want, to talk about that, right? I want us to talk about the power that lives within us to be the
Yep.
warriors, because seriously, we need to be warriors in this time and space and
This is a
dimension
time
now.
for spiritual warriors. That's right.
Yes, yes.
Poop got real, and we are in the real poop of the deal, and we need to fight. And I've always said, I always misquote it, Marianne Williamson, our fear is not our darkness, our fear is our light, that we, our own power. And I've never, ever been a gal that, this is all new to me. The woo-woo is much more new to me than a lot of people with my little transformation wake-up call. I'm a late bloomer. I'm proud of it now. I've embraced it. But I've never, to me, light, look, if you call yourself a light worker, good for you. I have no judgments. It's not about you. It's about how it resonated for me. So I'm not being critical at all. But light worker to me sounded like a limp noodle. I work for the light. That's me. I have a little oomph and a little too much fire in me, so I can get a little tenacious. So for me, light warrior has always been when I knew what am I, who am I, what is my soul purpose. I am a light warrior. What does that mean to me? It means I will fight for the light and the right no matter what I need to do. It doesn't mean I'm going to plow somebody over. It doesn't mean that I'm going to get the sword out and, you need a shield. But it means that I know that, like you said, it is time for me to fight for the light and the right. That I see and sense in my heart what's best for humanity, what's best for me, what's best for the love, the light of the love, right? The Christ light, whatever you want to call it. I am a light warrior. And I thought about this, Marilyn, because I think you and I don't want to speak for all New Yorkers, but I think native New Yorkers, we've got a little bit of a warrior in us from the minute that we can walk and talk, because that's kind of the element we grew up in. I was a latchkey kid. My mom had me out there on my own, and I knew when somebody was 2 blocks away that wasn't good, and I knew when to cross the path. I knew when to, I was always on. I always knew what was around me. And that's part of being a warrior, right? Seeing things. And you and I were talking about this at the beginning of the show. Because yes, I think everybody has the warrior spirit in them, but I think a lot of people have not turned it on, opened it up, explored it, and here we are, the new world. We've been waiting for it. There's not a better time than to get in touch with your inner warrior. And I guarantee you we all have a flame inside of us, and it's our soul.
Yeah, and it's trying to, right? The powerful message is to change the world, literally change the world, right? And always being present and fearless and bold and courageous and strong when you need to be in the places that you need to be, right? And it's that sense of justice, right? That's always, in front, right? That you're always, led in that direction and in that path. And I can recognize that within me, even as a young child, because I remember there were times when, I was so young, but I was so vocal too. There was a time in my life where I kind of feel that I lost my voice somewhat. But I think back on those times when I would hear phrases that would, it would just curdle me, I would feel so, I don't know. So I was so super sensitive with the wordings, because I remember. I'll give you an example. I recall a time when I was walking with my mom, and we were going shopping, and I just overheard, right, this woman speaking to this other woman and saying to her, we don't speak that language here in this country. We don't speak that way. And it was so harsh, and it was so, God, it struck me. It hit me it just went to my core, and I just could not, kind of I was a young child, but I couldn't walk past it, right? And I might have been about, I want to say maybe 10-ish, around there. But it was like this power that, it's almost like the words just seared through me. And I just couldn't be quiet. And I stepped in, I see this woman crying because she didn't know, how to, and I know that the impact was really harsh because I felt it, with the resonance of the power of the way the person was saying it, that I had to stand up for this woman. And I don't recall word for word, that I said, but I did defend the right of this woman speaking. I do remember telling her that, she has a right to speak whatever language she desires. This is why this is called, America, because we're all together as one, and that she had every right. And I also remember telling her that she wasn't speaking to her, and now she was intruding in the conversation that had nothing to do with her. I mean, I was so vocal. My mom at that time, she was just like trying to pull me away from the thing, because she just didn't want to have anything to do with it, because I think a part of her was fearful too. My mother was very fearful with in those confrontational, and and it's confrontational, and those are things that when you experience that, and as a young child, and to hear those words, and I just felt, no way am I going to allow something like this. But I also remember that throughout my life, that's who I always was. Like, if I saw something that was not, how would I say, that I would say, no, this is not acceptable. It didn't matter who it was. I was always vocal about it. I remember my husband, even when I was married, right? My husband would say to me, you can't do that. You could get hurt. You can't say those things. You could get hurt. But
especially in New York.
Yeah, but my thought was, if I could get you to the place of understanding and hearing me, right? Because I never said it like I was never cursing at people or demeaning them, but I was always trying to bring them up into a place of, do you hear yourself? Can you hear what you're saying? You know what I mean? And whether it took, a change or anything in the person, at that time, I wasn't even conscious of that. I was just wanting the pain of that other person to stop. Because, you see a grown woman holding on to her children and then crying, because of this impact. And it has an impact on you, the person, And I always felt you should never walk away from a situation that because this is my thought. Okay, let me start. My thought is this: if I walk past a situation that is not okay, then what I'm saying is, the message that I'm putting out there is that I approve of this and that I accept this as okay. Okay, and I could never do that. I could never do that. No
action is an action.
Yes.
No, not doing. You're bringing up a really good memory for me that is kind of funny, actually. I have, how you get in touch with me is angelwithanedge.com. I have a movie. Look at my brain. I have a movement called Angel with an Edge. Maybe I'll have a movie. I don't know. But Angel with an Edge is, roughly 20% rotten, 80% good. You pick your own ratio, right? That was the point of it. But the edge part, and I remember once, I must have been like 5 or 6, very young, and I was in a New York elevator with my mother, and it was me and my mother in this very well-dressed, I don't know where we were going, but it was somewhere hoity-toity near Park Avenue, because we lived in the village and we didn't have elevators, okay? And I knew enough to know that. And I think we were going to a doctor's office, I'm not sure, but it was an apartment building. And the woman said, oh what a beautiful child, with beautiful blue eyes. And she reached down and she pinched my cheek really hard.
Oh.
And I looked at her and I reached up and I pinched her cheek really hard. And the woman said, oh my God, what a horrible, rude child. Should be ashamed of yourself. And my mother, the original Angel with an Edge and Mama Bear like yours, said, you just did the same thing to my child without any thought of her own personal space. I mean, that's how amazing my mother was at that time, right? So, I come from warrior women. I know it. Yeah. And I'm lucky and blessed because I see a lot of people who, mothers will say, don't make a fuss, don't confront, it's okay, walk away. And that was never us. We were always the loudmouth crew. I was always the girl with the elephant in the room. And I paid for that. but I would never not speak the truth, right?
Yeah.
So
so that was me.
That.
Yes. And that was me in the bunch of we can't put up with this, and we can't take. We can't allow this. This is not. This is really, it's an offense against ourselves as well, right? And it's unacceptable. And I think that, for me, and I think that that's why I always, went into the field of, counseling, helping others, right? Because I always felt that, we can always recognize when things are, how would I say, off for us, if we learn how to detect that. But if we don't learn how to detect it, then what happens is that we inflict more pain on others and ourselves as well, right? If we don't recognize those signals, right? And so I always wanted to be that person that could, just shed the light a little bit, right? So that maybe you can see something. Maybe I can show you a different way. Maybe we can, look at things from a higher perspective. And that way we can expand, and my thing is, we can expand together, right? We this is just because as I was teaching, I was also learning, right? And I really always, understood that, to be my truth, right?
Well, I just love the underdogs. I love the truth sayers. I was saying this earlier to you, the Abby Hoffmans, the Rosie O'Donnells, the Russell Brands, Michael Moore. You may not like what they stand for. You don't have to agree with what they stand for, but at least they're out there going, this is happening. This is going on. They're speaking their truth. And there's a lot of flack that comes with speaking one's truth.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I was always the bossy girl in the bedroom with the hairbrush microphone. I was always Diana Ross. Everybody else was the Pips when I was young, right? I was born with that spirit. I don't know where that confidence came because I had a lot of insecurities as a young girl with my dyslexia and I had one parent that was a perfectionist. But I was born with part of that came out of me. And I'm sure it's because I touched into it in my past lives, right? That's where I feel it started. Like, didn't start in this lifetime. But in this lifetime, I said, you know what? I'm going to come and I'm going to talk about my truth. Before I die, I'm not going to leave the music in me, right? So believe it or not, we're at our first break, Miss Marilyn.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
See you in a few minutes.
Yeah, you guys, we're going to come right back, but we would love for you guys to give us a call if you would like to ignite your inner light warrior.
202-570-7057.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
So I'm a cat. And I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
clearly I have no problem discussing this topic all day, all night. One of my most favorite things, actually, I think it is two of my most favorite things, my purpose, what I love. One is the highest compliment you could ever give me is that I inspired you. That I inspired you, that I lit a spark, or that there was something I did that inspired you to want to either emanate that action or whatever. I just love to inspire people. The second is to help somebody get one tiny bit of their empowerment back, or one big bit, but it comes. It's like, to me, it's always like a flock of butterflies calling them home, one at a time, fluttering in, right? But those are my two favorite things. And I just feel like I've always been the girl who fought for the underdog. I remember once when we were in summer camp and my stepsister, Cammie, she really didn't want to go, and she was forced into going. It was in Maine. It was beautiful. And she was in little camp and I was in big camp. And I still have the scar on my top of my hand. I carry it for life. And there was some girl who was picking on her. And I went to little camp and I opened the screen door to defend her. I wasn't going to have an encounter with this girl. I was going to defend my sister and say, lay off, don't hurt her. But she was a bully. And I opened the door and she scratched my hand with her fingernail. And, ultimately, my voice of reason and my charming ways, I made everything okay with this person and made it okay for my little sister. I don't remember a lot of it, but I wear this scar for life, and I never let my sister forget it, that who had your back, who'll always have your back, I will always defend you, and I will always make sure that you are okay from a bully or whatever else the scary world has, because that's who I am. If I love you, I will defend you forever. That's just who I am. And it's hard for me partly to talk about this conversation because I feel like I'm so a warrior in who I am that it's hard for me to grasp the energy of not being part of that, right? But the other part of it is, it can get you in trouble. I in my youth, I was a little more heated. And, I didn't initiate a violent encounter with this gal. It was more of an accident. But, wearing the scar of life, we wear our scars and we learn from them as well. And sometimes I could be really passionate and in someone's face too much. And that's not helpful either. And that's what I loved what you said about before we went to the break, where, you were trying to show people the way of the vision, not in, say it's my way or the highway, right?
Right.
That's important to say for me.
Yeah, because I feel that it is important, right? Because when we're doing this work, right? It's also, we're also learning from it, right? And we're also learning how to balance things, right? Like, sometimes, you can get up and say, what is happening? What is it that we need to do to shift things in the world? Because, and I do this. This is my thing. Sometimes I go, oh my goodness, I woke up with this understanding and now I need to work around this, right? Or I need to try to see how I can, balance certain things. It's like, I think about the division, that is in the world today. And, I really felt this morning, and this is what, came to me this morning. It was like, I felt really emotional about it. I really felt like I wanted to just cry me a river, you know what I mean? Because it just felt so painful to witness to experience.
Did you watch some of the news that's going on? Was that the case?
No, I just felt that way when I woke up in the morning. Yeah. It was like, what can I do? What can I do today? What can I do today? Yes. To try to balance this division, because so long as we all stay divided, like fighting each other over things that really don't matter, sometimes we have to look at things and say, look at look at what's happening. They're giving you something so that you can separate yourself from other people, so that you can dive into this whatever understanding it is that they want to give you. So now you become more divided and more fractured, and then you can't come together for the simple things.
Because that keeps everyone disempowered.
Yes, right? Because divided we fall, right? Divided we fall. And this is such a,
we're so divided right now.
Yes, and I think that if we
becoming
can,
more apparent.
Yeah, and if we can just, find the things that, that pull us together instead of the things that pull us apart. Like, let's look at the things that really we do have in common, that we do have, some connection to. So that, because then, as a warrior, right, then we're looking at it from a different perspective, right? We're looking at it from a place of wholeness, right? From a place of love and compassion, right? We still have our courageous spirit, and we're still strong, and we're still always present, and we're fearless. But at the same time, we're working with the energy in a way where it's more of about a balancing, right? And let me say this also, because I think that it's important, that the other piece was there has to be a balance within me as well, within each one of us. Like, there has to be a balance within us, because when we are out of balance and we go out into the world, right, as a collective, now we're in that collective imbalance energy, and that's what gets fed. So if we can, just kind of like, recognize that, there is an imbalance happening within us, and if we can work that, my goodness, if we could all do that, right, we could also see a different world as well, right? Because we'll know exactly what it is that we're needing or wanting, right? And we come together for that instead of, fighting amongst each other about things that I just look and say, let's look at the things that bring us together. Let's do that.
Well, and I love that you said yes. I love everything you said, especially about the balance. See, this is what my friend Greg with him, bless his heart, he passed on, but he visits me all the time. I'm so lucky. But he was an astrologer, and he was an amazing teacher, and he had that therapist kind of voice that was just so calming and balancing and grounding. And this is when he would interject to me back when I thought, well, it's astrology, it's in the sky, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, okay, whatever. And I'm much more into astrology than you are, Marilyn. And it's so appropriate, because this is what Greg would say. He'd say, see, you're talking like an astrologer, and you know the astrology even though you're not an astrologist. Because we have that beautiful full moon in Libra, which is all about changing the relationship to the future and endorsing a new action plan to get there with balance. With the balance of your life. That's the focus, and that's what's coming on Friday, right smack in the middle of the afternoon. So I just love that that's coming out of your mouth, and it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, she doesn't even know what she's saying, even though she knows what she's saying. Yeah,
because it's powerful, right, to recognize the energies, right? For me, I feel the frequencies, the energies, of the collective as well as my own, and differentiating, and then trying to figure this whole situation out. But it was more about if we could just shift things, right? Just shift things, just even a tiny bit on our understanding. Why don't we go out and try to meet people who maybe are a little different than us, or that we assume, because remember, sometimes we're just making an assumption that they're different from us, but they really aren't that much different once you get to know them. And then, it's about, we learn that we are so much more alike than we are different. Right? So that's another thing, right? That for me, it's like, let's do a different kind of dance. Let's create a new dance step, right? A new rhythm, so that we can, vibrate differently in the world, and we can bring this love and compassion and peace. And we all have that. Sometimes what happens is that, when we're working with the warrior spirit, right? We have to think about, it's a divine soul at times that's struggling for the forces, of the light, in a seemingly, because it's not always that is what it is. It just appears to be dark at times, right? So sometimes the world looks dark to us and feels dark to us. but it doesn't have to really be that. If we can see
Yes.
beyond that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gave me another light bulb moment here because I can have such gratitude and appreciation for where I grew up and how I grew up now, which I couldn't at the time. You know, I was very fortunate that I grew up in Greenwich Village at a time, it was a very different time in the city. This was the late 60s. But I mean, it was the gay community, it was the artist community. There were a lot of artists. There were every ethnicity that you can imagine was in New York, in the Village where I grew up. And it was like a little island in the middle of the city. I felt relatively safe. But I was exposed to so many different Middle Eastern, you name it. I was exposed to it. And I didn't know anything different. You know, this is where I want to say it's kind of like a reversal of being the world lighting up for you. Because not until I moved out of New York into Hoboken and became older. I was much older. I was married for the first time. Did I see how much division there actually was in the world? Because I was so blessed with everybody kind of getting along. It was very magical and rare. Most of my friends now grew up in suburbia or in an all-white neighborhood or whatever. It really showed me a perspective of how we can all get along. We can all have different beliefs. We can all have different faiths. We can all have different favorite dinners. We can have different holidays, but we all bleed red. We all have bones. We all feel loss, and that division that you're talking about is so magnified now. And I do feel that the light warriors, it's like we were born for this. This is what we came here for, to light the match, just like the Olympic torch. We light the match and then they light the match for someone else and they light the match for someone else. And that's what's happening. That's what this awakening is about. So I guess, Marilyn, how do we help people ignite their inner warrior? I guess there's probably people wondering out there, well, I love hearing what they're talking about, but how do I get in touch with my inner warrior? So there's sure a really big question to take.
Yeah, right. It's trying to go within first, right? Go within first and see the things that matter to you. See the things that, are your core, right? So, because that's important. A lot of times, when you ask that question, I'm going like this and I'm saying, yeah, it is important first to know who you are. Right? And do you know who you are? And do you know who you are? Because sometimes people, I always used to say, and I remember this all the time, I always used to tell people, especially my children as well, when I was raising them, the same thing, you have to know who you are, so nobody can tell you who you are, right? Because the moment you know who you are, yes, if you are aware of who you are in the world and how you fit into the world, right? Then nobody can say differently to you because you know that. I remember nobody could tell me who I was. I would be going like this, yeah, all right, whatever you say, because I know who I am. And I'm never gonna be anybody different. I mean, I will expand and shift and change, but still the core of who I am is going to still be the core of who I am. And so in order, I think that people first need to go in and decide and take a really good look at what it is that matters to you. What lights you up? When people are talking about things, what lights you up? What makes you feel passionate? What makes you feel compassion? What makes you feel inspired? All those things matter, right? And that's how you. Go ahead.
And okay, and what's the one thing that you've always wanted to do that you thought you weren't good enough, thin enough, rich enough, pretty enough, young enough, whatever your enough was, but it's never gone away?
It's a desire.
That's
it's
you.
A soul.
That's you.
Yeah.
That's right. That's your soul talking to you,
Yeah.
and it ain't going to go away like a splinter. It's going to keep being there. That's what I always tell people. They go, what? But I couldn't do that. I'm like, are you sure you couldn't do that? Or do you believe you can't do that? Because I think that's a sweet spot right there for people.
Yeah. Because if you believe that you could never do that or that it's never going to happen for you, then it's never going to happen for you, because you're telling yourself.
That's right.
Now, we have to understand something about energy. Energy is really powerful, and we have the power to co-create, and we have the power to achieve what it is that we are desiring. But we also have to, sometimes people say, yeah, but I prayed about this and I did this and I did that. But there was never any momentum in it. There was never any momentum, no frequency, no drive to it. It was just, I would like that. Or I really want this. I really want this. I really want this. But what are you doing to achieve that?
Right.
Because you can't just be still.
Effort equals energy.
Yes. So you have to keep movement. Do the sacred movement. I always think about, there are those moments when we just need to sit, be quiet, and listen. Tune in. And then make the next move. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then make the next move that feels right for you, out of judgment, out of self-judgment, out of the judgment of other people. It doesn't matter. Somebody could have told you cannot be successful in this arena. And you know what? Sometimes you got to go and say, I'm going to prove them wrong, because I know that I have the energy and the desire in me that's burning. And I know. Yes, that fire will create the momentum that you need to move forward. But sometimes what happens is that we have fears that come into play. And I'm very tuned into that. Yeah.
I think it's really important also to say, like, as an artist, it took me a really long time to get this. I was always looking for validation from other people about my creations. And the key with that is we all want to be appreciated for our work, our good work. It's not about that. But if you're going to measure your worth and your work by other people's opinions, you're also going to have to believe the bad shit they tell you.
Right.
And that gives your power away. So I learned a long time ago.
But that's knowing who you are.
Right. But I learned a long time ago that the opinion that matters on my work most is from my soul and myself. Because if I believe all the good stuff and my ego gets so inflated, I also have to put the weight in the bad stuff. And that is not my true guide. That is not my true gauge. And again, inside job versus outside job. Right?
Yes.
It takes a lot to get there, because we have all been disempowered.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's time for another break, Marilyn.
Yeah, and being disempowered doesn't mean that we can't reignite that energy to
just saying
empower
I've
ourselves.
been disempowered is empowering.
Yeah.
Just saying I have been disempowered, or I have let myself become disempowered, empowers you. You get a butterfly back right there. One butterfly in the herd.
And when
I don't
we
know
come
what
back,
you
I'm
call
going
a
to
herd
read.
of butterflies.
Yeah, when we come back, I'm going to read something that
A flutter. You get one flutter back. All right, you guys, stick with us. We got one last segment.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
With everything going on, there may be times you feel like you can't handle it all. Journaling, meditating, and talking with friends and family can help you feel more grounded and better able to cope. Your kids are also going through a lot of new experiences, and simply talking with them about their feelings can be quite powerful.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. So as I said before we went to break that, I wanted to read a channeling that I received, and I think it kind of matches the topic, but it also matches the collective frequency at this time. Okay, beautiful, beautiful ones. Thank you so much for opening this door. Okay. Surrender your understanding and flow with ease and grace in the divine truth. Learning to care for self and love thyself is an automatic instinct at birth. Over time, we are taught the importance of service of others through sacrifice. We learn that sacrifice is holy, honorable, and the way we berate the voice that asks for self-care, self-love, over sacrifice, and over serving. Being self-servant is the norm, and the imbalance begins. Surrender the need to serve others until you learn to serve the self in a healthy way. Feel your light, be the light, recognize your power and your voice. Listen to the inner knowing, till the soil, and generate new life force energy. Lay down, my child, and be one with the mother. Let her resources feed you as you surrender your old patterns. A renewal is here. A release is here. A time for bounty is yours. A new day is here. I am enough. I matter. I am strong. I am a gift from the divine. I am unique and wonder-filled. I am that I am, the magnitude of light that radiates flares of light beams throughout the earth. I am bountiful. I am a co-creator, recalibrating and transmuting the old energies. I observe my transformation. I declare my rite of passage and welcome myself back, renewed and purified. So I wanted to share that because I felt that, there is such importance in us being able to be still and, just sitting with our feelings and sitting with what it is that we are believing, the story that, may be resonating, right? And to recognize that there is a light that is always burning inside of us, right? That is always guiding us, that will always assist us in moving, in our lives, right? As we, walk our true path, right? And always remembering that it's a beautiful thing to serve, right? It's a beautiful thing to give others, of yourself. But it's truly, truly important that we remember to do that for ourselves because we don't want to be depleted, right? And we want to come from a full place, right?
It was so beautiful. I have no idea when you channeled that, but it's just beautiful. And I have to say, I've always said this since my journey, my wellness journey and my awakening. Surrendering is one of the most powerful things that you can do for your empowerment because they knocked me down and they made everything flatline and they made everything still, and I didn't have a choice. I mean, I guess I could have given up, but I'm a warrior. I can't do that. But surrendering, we are not, this society, in air quotes, is not conducive to surrendering, allowing, going within. Now that's changing, and it's changing rather quickly.
And I'm thankful
we're here.
for that.
This is it. This is it. Here we are. Yes. We're here now. And get on board. Get on the light train. You know, I love that song, Peace Train by Cat Stevens. But I'm calling it the light train today because this is not one single soul on this planet does not have that internal flame in their being of who they are.
We all have it. We all have it.
And surrendering is one of the most strongest things you can ever do for your own personal empowerment and journey moving forward.
Well, it creates a freedom, right? It creates a freedom within because we're no longer having to be attached to things and people, places, and things, you know, and that's important because when we're able to detach from everything, then we know those things that really, you know, matter in our lives. But when we have so much attached to us, right, that
now
we're just
you're
collecting,
your inner
holding
Buddha.
on,
This is
right?
all Buddha. Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Not be attached to anything. The Buddha always said anything you're attached to will create suffering and pain.
Yeah. And it can, right? And it usually does, right? Because sometimes we, and again, then we do a lot of self-sacrificing sometimes for things that, you know, people, places, and things that we really needed to surrender.
Or we keep rolling that rock up the hill going, it's got to be this way. It's got to be this way. I'm going to make it happen. And everything's against you. And then you know what happens? Because I did this, and I'll tell you, I got squashed big time. That giant rock that you're rolling up the hill gathers all the petals and the twigs, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it rolls right down over you and goes back downhill, and there you are, flattened. And you know, that'll teach you surrendering. It's a lot easier to surrender before that ever happens. If I could save people from that one thing, you know, just when things aren't working, surrender. It's in God's hands. God knows there's a plan.
But there's a reason,
it's
right?
not my plan. There's a reason.
There's a reason, and sometimes we have to recognize something, right? Like when we're fighting against the tides, right? When we're really pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing,
that's right.
And no matter how hard we push, we still keep meeting that resistance, right? Well, what I say is stop for a moment, rethink, replan, reorganize, and take a better look at your surroundings and take a better look at the plan. Maybe the plan is not the right plan. Maybe you're so focused on looking in front that you're not looking to the right, to the left, above and below. Maybe you just need to stop for the moment and and take a better look at what the plan is. What is the mission? What is it that you really want? You want to get this stone or this rock or this boulder to a certain location. Okay, so you've been pushing and pushing and pushing, but somehow you just can't get it. You may take certain steps forward, but it always keeps coming back down, right? Well, maybe the road is not the road you're supposed to be on. Take a better look. You know, there's a path. There could be a path to the right of you that could be rolling down and smooth and easy.
Right? Or like you don't even need the rock because you have rollerblades you can put on your feet. I mean, you know, that's why your storm analogy in the description where we started this show was so eloquent and well written, because the center of the storm is the calm. And sometimes you just have to say, all right, here's the storm. Stuff's hitting the fan, shifts hitting the fan, and I'm going to embrace this storm, and I'm going to roll with the punches, and I'm going to surrender. And that's when you become part of the storm. And what do storms do? They always move on.
Right.
So, yeah, I love it. I love that so much.
Yeah, because it is important for us to recognize that sometimes we're pushing things that
I push so
no matter
much
how
life.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It could, like I said, it could be people, places, or things, right, that are in our lives that we just want to. We just can't. We can't look anywhere else. This is what I want. This is what I want.
Yes.
This is what I want.
Or this is how I survive. This is how I've survived all of my damage. I have to keep doing it this way, or everything will fall apart and I won't have any power, which is really false illusion. I spent my whole life, my young life, climbing that hill, all that Cappy in me, face in the puddle. I could drown in the puddle, lift the face up and go, I can keep doing this. I can keep going. No. I got a big giant boulder, like you said.
And you say there's another way. And you say there is another way. So if we are open to understanding that there is another way, when we meet high resistance, right? And this is, my thing, right? I go like this. Oh, there's resistance here. Okay, what is this about? I go inward. I dive inward. I take a look at what is that? Is there a story there? What's the story? Okay, now how real is this story to me, right? Or is it just something that's activated here that needs to just be, released? And I can do that. But, it's important to be able to acknowledge that there's a story and that's the reason why I keep only looking in front of me. It's like I have these blinders and I'm only looking in front, but there's so much more. And what I'm asking people to do is to see everything that is available to you. Everything that's available to you without limitations, because we put the limitations on ourselves and then we put those blinders on and then we say, I can only see this, I can only see this is all I see, this is all I find. But we can only find that which is in front of us, because that's what we have to have a wider view so that we can incorporate all that is available, because there's so much more than what we understand, right? And what we know. There's so much more.
Well, we've been told to be separate from our intuition and our empowerment, and that's where we're heading back. I mean, it all literally comes back to the Wizard of Oz. Big giant tornado, everything got shook up. She went to another world and then she came back to the same world she was in, but she wasn't the same girl because she had her empowerment. It's like, I will never, that's like, that will always be my biggest metaphor, right? And I got my big sparkly red shoes on, Marilyn. I don't know about you, but these shoes.
That's my favorite, actually. I really own the VHS tape.
That was the year my mother was born, 1939. We watched that movie so many times. She loved that movie. It is about all of us gathering those butterflies back, those little bits of power. It happens layer by layer, just like unpeeling that onion. You gather back a little bit and a little bit, and then one day you turn around and you go, ooh, look at me. And then the next day you go, wow, I got a really long way to go still.
Mm-hmm. And we can unlearn. Sometimes it's important for us to remember that, because sometimes we think differently, that we can't unlearn. Oh, that's already the way I do things. Oh, I can't do it any other way. There's no way that I can, redo this a different way. And I'm here to say to you that yes, there is. We can unlearn behaviors. We can unlearn and shift certain patterns, belief systems that are getting in the way of our highest and greatest expansion. We can do that. It is a little bit.
And I truly believe there's not one thing that cannot be healed. I truly believe that. I want to add that to what you're saying.
Yeah. And you have to recognize, right? You have to be able to open and to recognize.
Healable. Yeah. There's a big difference.
Yeah. And it's all about how you see yourself and how you see yourself in the world, and how are you apart? Are you separate? I mean, do you feel like, you're not enough, or, whatever it is, the feeling in places, said it. Right?
If you think you're wrong or you think you're right, you're going to be right. Whichever way you're thinking. Time.
Yeah. And so it's remembering the power that we have and that we hold. So the thinking mind, right? I think about, the power of the worry, right? The power of the worry.
Yes.
Oh, we worry so much about things.
The robbery of the worry.
Yes, because it robs us of the present.
Mm-hmm. If I could I can't go back and save my 20-year-old self that was so gorgeous and so beautiful, and I ripped her to shreds. I can't save her. I can heal me now, but if I can save one person out there from the robbery of the worry and the disempowerment, start it now. One teeny tiny itty bitty step is all it takes, and it expands. What you be, you become, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
because your focus feeds. Your focus feeds that which you're focusing upon. I see it energetically when I work with people, right? It's like it's so present, right? There's just so much. Sometimes, I'm working on someone and and then I tell them, I tell them a story, right, about them. And then they're like, how'd you know that? I don't know them. So they go, how do you know that? I go, your body has just told me that. The story is living inside of you. There is a story that is activated in you. And that's what's holding us back a lot of times. And when we can reach that story and we can go in there and shake it up and say, wait a minute, this story doesn't have to continue to be activated. Yes.
And that's where you need a truth sayer. That's where you need a guide. That's where you need an inspirer. That's where you need someone who can say, oh, sweetheart, let's just take a look at this little bit right here. Because we can't see it. We have blinders on. We're the horse with the blinders going out the gate.
Yeah.
Then it starts becoming more and more apparent, right? More and more is revealed.
Yeah, and when you're able to hear it, right?
To help.
Yeah. And when you're able to hear it, like when there's something happening, like sometimes people will say, this keeps happening, right? Well, it keeps happening because, and it keeps happening because we are focused on that. And that's the energy that we continuously feed, and that's the energy that will continuously expand.
Why do I keep getting 98.9 on the radio dial? Why is that the only station I'm getting?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Wow.
So we're almost at the end, right? So of our talk. So I want to put out, right, the universal sacredmedicine.com is where you can reach me.
Fantastic. And you can reach me at angelwithanedge.com or Elizabeth Lindsay on Instagram or Facebook. And we did it.
Blessings, love, and light.
Light warriors unite. Woo!